everybody? How you all doing? And I'm back on the channel. Yep, it's been a while. I'm not in the studio, but I just wanted to use a little bit of change of scenery for today. So today, as you know, I like I said, I wanted to review some television shows, and this is the first of a few that I want to talk about. One of the first I want to get done, and now there is, of course, the fourth and final season of Castlevania. Yeah, I was a little surprised when I found out that yes, of course, this is the final season of Castlevania. Yeah, after 4 seasons, I was like, okay, it's time. It was time for it to go. I was a little upset, but at the same time, I was like, okay, but I was curious, like, how are they going to do this? What direction would they take this in? And surely enough, I feel like this one kind of delivered. So, let's see. As we all know, season 3 was a bit polarizing for fans. Some people loved it, some people hated it. If I had to equate this to Star Wars, season 3 was like The Last Jedi. This was more like Return of the Jedi in a way, if that makes sense, or Empire Strikes Back. I don't know. It's like I'm trying to pick a good variant or good equivalent, but I feel like season 4 was a good finale. Like, trying to wrap up everything. It gave closure to some arcs, but then again, it left us with more questions than answers. Like, what will happen now? Like, obviously, one of the big things was, okay, Saint Germain. Okay, somehow we answered some questions as the show went on. It's like, okay, so Saint Germain somehow got out of the corridor. So somehow he did. They show us how he's there, but of course we slowly see his true form. Which of course I do like the fact that this actually played off the actual storyline that actually happened in the Curse of Darkness video game. And if you've never played the Curse of Darkness video game, spoilers ahead. This is what happens with Saint Germain. Of course, Saint Germain looked totally different in the game. Of course, that was Konami's vision of how they wanted to see it. This is Ari Shankar's vision or Warren Ellis, how they wanted to see this character. And sure enough, I feel like they delivered. I kind of like marked out a little bit when the final reveal of Varney, spoilers ahead, was death this whole time. I was like, holy shit. But at the same time, I was like I do not remember Varney at all, but I had to go back and I realized, okay, now I remember who he is. And yes, so overall, this final season gave us some closure. Loved these epic battles, all the crazy shit that happens, the final act, and of course the fun final episode just had me just made me saying, okay. It was like a false finish, but then of course it leads the door open. Okay, there we go. It kind of plants the seeds for something new. Of course, carrying on the Belmont legacy. So yeah, there you go. So overall, I felt like this 4th season was a good, solid in the final, but I felt like they could have left it even more for me. Like, I was kind of expecting a little more, but I will admit the fan service was perfect because I recognized a ton of enemies, including that freaking dinosaur, whatchamacallit, that called Bells. I forget what the full title is, but I recognize that villain, that dinosaur-like-esque creature from Dawn of Sorrow. So that's definitely a huge nod to that game. There's seriously, if they were able to pull that off, I'm happy. So yeah. And as for the thing that with Dracula at the end, I was like, okay, so is he good? Is he bad? I'm like somehow they kind of, that's the other thing. The other takeaway I want to take from this entire show is like, okay, so Dracula turned out to be the villain, but then it's like, he dies. It's like, okay, so he's good now. I never understood that, but to me, he's still the ultimate epitome of evil, the ultimate epitome of what we fear. Maybe, well, of course, they did leave the seeds of, do you think that Dracula and Alucard will reunite or settle their differences? We don't know. All right, so before I give my final score, I definitely want to give some of the more now I want to talk about the whole show in general. Like, the pros, obviously, the great stuff, the fact that they played to the game's strengths, playing to the heroes, doing the homages, the perfect good amount of fan service, as well as incorporating a character that also was technically in the game Castlevania franchise, but also was based on a character from an outside source that's not Bram Stoker related. So, which is Carmelo Karnstein, pretty distracted by 25 years. I talked about this back in my season 2 review. So yeah, really like that. I think now the 2 cons I want to talk about is obviously most of season 3 was a bit of a drag, but it was a slow burn. But there were, like I said, there were moments of brilliance. The other thing is, and of course, I hate bringing this up, okay, is of course the vampire bisexual orgy at the end of that. I did not like that. It's like, to me, it was unnecessary. I don't like that. The fact that, trying to make things politically correct. I hate doing that for horrors, okay? Let me tell you something about horror. Horror doesn't need to be politically correct. It's a horror. It's shock value, and it's atmospheric horror. You don't need to inject that bullshit into a show like that, all right? And to me, those are the only two cons throughout the show. But yeah. So so if I had to give Castlevania an overall score, well, let's see, for the fourth and final season, I was going back and forth between a 7.5 and an 8. Ultimately, I'm gonna go with maybe a 7.5 because it left me wanting more. That's to me, like, I was happy, but I want more. I'm happy that they're going to continue the Belmont legacy in a future story, which, of course, is the spinoff. I'm really looking forward to that. Of course, so yeah, we're going to see Victor Belmont. We're going into the Symphony of the Night era, folks. I'm excited for that. Whenever that may come, I'll be waiting, okay? So that does it for today. If you've not seen all the seasons of Castlevania, go buy them. They're available on DVD. Well, one's going to be available on DVD eventually. You can also watch them on Netflix. Whatever, okay? Enjoy your day, folks.